Welcome back, guys, to What's Not Sport, episode 29. We got a few things to cover, as well as hoping it's a little bit of a shorter episode. I am sorry that it is a late episode. Should have dropped yesterday. It did not, which is all right, as you might be able to see. Things are looking good on the podcast. Let's second camera, third camera. I think they all look pretty cool. The first and second camera are definitely a lot better quality than the third, but nonetheless, it looks really good. So I'm really excited. Obviously, a lot better lighting, better background now. It's all looking a bit more professional. So I'm very excited to test out my new setup on the new episode. So let's just jump straight into it. So obviously, we had our NRL, AFL, NRLW on the weekend. We've also got an update on the West Indies and Australia tour. And then also the Swimming World Championships at the moment in the pool over in Singapore. So let's kick off with the cricket tour and let's go on from there. So last week I mentioned what was going on the Australia tour of the West Indies, playing against them. We were playing pretty good cricket. Clean sweep the test. Now we're on to the T20 series. As this is releasing, the fifth and final game of the T20 against the West Indies will be happening. At the moment, Australia's already claimed the series, which is incredible already to see. We are 4-0 in the T20 series. So one last game happening today when this podcast comes out. And yeah, fingers crossed, another clean sweep and Aussie domination. So I'm pretty happy to say I'm Australian and that the Aussies are going very well in the cricket after having a bit of an upset against the South Africans. Now, let's talk a little bit of World Championships. And I'm going to throw in my segment of, the new one. What do we call it? One that got away. I'll throw that in as well. So, here we go. Early Monday morning, we got note that not only did the female 4x100 freestyle get the gold, but also the men. So we did the double. There was a lot of uncertainty surrounding the female one, especially with two young guns in the team. America were the favourites for it, but no, the Aussies showed up and got it done. And then the men absolutely destroyed it. This ties into the one that got away, Carl Chalmers' swim in that. His 100 in that relay was absolutely incredible. Probably went in about a body length and a half. Half a body length behind, and then really, really stepped up and hammered his way home just to make it, to help out, do his part for the team and to really, get there and so they could secure gold. He really his split was incredibly fast. So his split was 46.53 seconds. Now, the world record for the men's 100 free at the moment is 46.40. So he is just over a tenth slower. I guess you could say just over a tenth slower than the world record pace for the individual 100 free, which will make for a very exciting 100-meter men's race. So I'm very excited to watch that when that happens. Probably end up watching the replay because I'll be in bed sleeping, but nonetheless, I am very excited for it. Now, another few results from Monday morning. We had Lani Pallister finish fourth in the 400 meter final. I think also we had Jamie Perkins finish seventh. Both had huge PBs. Lani just a little bit short of cracking that podium, which is all right. But she's just showing how much she's improved in her 400 swim than what she has. Well, really stepped up her game, which is just incredible to see. Yeah, for 250 meters, she was with Summer McIntosh, who ended up winning the 400. But great stuff from Lani. And then in the men's, Sam Short claimed a silver in the 400. So the last World Championships, he won, and only by like 0.02. This time he came second only by 0.02. So a super close race. And I think third was 0.03. So all within half of a tenth of a second. So just it's incredibly fast and incredibly close. And then this morning, as of Tuesday mornings, I believe it was Alex Perkins got third in the 100 meter butterfly, which is just another medal on another tally on the board for the Aussies. So very exciting there. Now let's jump into it. AFL. Geez, my AFL tips are getting much better. So let's run through it. We had the Hawks versus Carlton. We had Essendon versus Bulldogs. GWS versus Sydney. Gold Coast versus Brisbane. So the Q clash there. We then also had the Sydney clash equivalent. I forgot what that one was called. The WA Derby, I think it is, with Freo and West Coast. And then obviously we had a few Melbourne, obviously always have Melbourne teams playing each other. And then Adelaide versus Port Adelaide. I forget what they call the South Australian clash. And then we had Richmond versus Collingwood and St Kilda versus Melbourne. So in that, the Hawks versus Carlton game, I had the Hawks ticket, got that one right, one on the board. Essendon versus Bulldogs. Essendon just continue to keep on struggling this season, don't they? Their losing streak is just seeming to grow. The Bulldogs got the win there. I had them tipped. I tipped GWS against Sydney. Fortunately enough for me, GWS got the win. Now, this is where my tips started to go a bit iffy. Gold Coast versus Brizzy. I backed the Gold Coast after they beat Collingwood. And they had a bit of a shocker last week. So I went, they won't be good enough for Brizzy. But in saying that, they were. Excuse me. So this time around for the Q clash, the Gold Coast got the win over Brizzy. So that's my first tip wrong. Freo versus the West Coast. I tipped Freo, got them right. Had Geelong for the North Melbourne versus Geelong game. Sweet as. Got another tick there. What else we got? We got North versus Geelong. I think I just said that one. Sorry, North Melbourne versus Geelong. Had Geelong tipped there, so that's another one right. Adelaide versus Port Adelaide. I had Adelaide tip. The Crows got the win there, so another tip right. Richmond versus Collingwood. No way was I tipping Richmond in this one. Collingwood, and yes, Collingwood got the win there. And then a little bit of a surprising one. Not too surprising, I'd say, but that was St Kilda getting the win over Melbourne. So, getting the win over the D's. So, I guess D's fans would be a little bit upset with that, and I'm a little bit upset because that hurts my tipping. Overall, 6 out of 8, not too bad. Definitely improving with my tips. Now, I'm sorry, the pod feels a little bit rushed, but we're on to the NRLW. We had Warriors versus Titans, Cowboys versus Raiders, Eels versus Knights, Dragons versus Broncos, Sharks versus Tigers. So, it was an iffy week of tipping again for me. I think with the fresh season, and I'm putting a lot of faith into the Raiders females in the Raiders NRLW team, and it's not turning out too good. They still haven't won a game, but we'll kick it off. So I had the Wires versus Titans. I did tip the Titans. The Titans were very strong in the first half, and then the Warriors actually came back a bit, those girls, and then brought it to a little bit closer, but the Titans did get the win there. Cowboys versus Raiders. I know, I tipped the Raiders girls again. The Cowboys absolutely smashed them. I'm thinking I might have to swap my tipping up, but it just hurts my soul to do it. I don't know if I can do it. Eels versus Knights. I thought the Eels could be a strong team, especially with their win over the Raiders girls last week, but no, the Knights showed to be too much of a worthy foe for them, so I got that tip wrong. Dragons versus Broncos. I had a lot of faith in the Dragons, showing that they're a bit younger side. And the Broncos, I don't know, I just thought give the old Bucks a run for their money, and they didn't, and the Broncos really put them to the test. So I got that tip wrong, which is not great. And then Sharks vs Tigers. I'm happy to say I did get that tip right. So that is a happy day there. So 3 for 6, not horrible, but definitely not fantastic, not great, but 50% is a passing mark. Now let's jump in to the NRL. We had Roosters vs Storm, Cowboys vs Dragons, Broncos vs Eels, the Warriors vs Titans, Penrith vs Tigers, South vs Sharks, Raiders vs Knights, and the Dogs vs Manly. So let's kick it off. Roosters vs Storm. I had the Storm ticked. I thought it was going to be an absolute blowout game there, but no, it wasn't. The Roosters really just put up a fight there, really making the Storm struggle. I thought the Storm would have bounced back like massively compared to what they actually did, especially after their loss last week against Manly, but they still got the win. 2 points is 2 points. Can't complain too much there. But a great game of footy, so that's probably the biggest take from it. And then also Jerome Hughes cleared of immediate surgery, so not as bad as what initially thought, but thoughts go out to him. Cowboys versus Dragons. I had the Dragons tip. This was just another awesome game of footy. It was so close. I thought the Dragons were going to get there in the end. They just a little bit too late. Too little, too late, I guess. Tom Dearden had a field day. Like, it was absolutely incredible. I think he dropped like 96 points on fantasy, which is insane. So anyone with Tom Dearden as captain would have been laughing at everyone. Like, oh man, I wish I had him on my fantasy team after that game. Holy, it was pretty good from him. Broncos versus Eels. The Broncos had what they call the Super Six back, and so it's the first time that the quote-unquote Super Six has played all season. So that's Reece Walsh, Ezra Mam, Ben Hunt, Adam Reynolds, Payne Haas, and Patrick Carrigan. It wasn't enough to beat what was formerly the bottom of the ladder team, the Eels. The Eels, who were in 17th, but after their win over the Broncos, they've skyrocketed to 16th, and the Bunnies have gone down to 17th. But it was a very intense and enjoyable game of footy again. Like, we were blessed with quite a few games that were really close, but then we also had a few blowout games, which was a little bit disappointing to see. We then, after that game, we had the Warriors versus Titans. Now, this was the upset of the round. The Titans, can we just go back a second? Sorry, the Eels were in 16th. They've gone up to 15th now, or something, they're 15th, blah, blah, blah. They've gone up, and then, the win of the Titans, which was just absolutely incredible, they've overpassed South Sydney, and South Sydney has dropped to 17th. But anyway, I don't understand how the Titans did that. I do say they have a fantastic team on paper. And yes, it is the Gold Coast, but you can't blame the flashing lights on Gold Coast on a team, I don't think, or on the players. Like, they just have to do it. It's their job. But man, I did not expect them to rock up to New Zealand and absolutely put on a show. And God, it was almost like, what? Let's get the score. Sorry, it was a close game, like 24-16. But I just, it wasn't the Titans that were playing. It was another team. I think they might have wanted to do it for Dez. I don't know how they felt. Like, I don't know what brought this on, what it was. It just shows how tight the comp can be and how good the Titans can be. Even without Tino and Fafita, they were just to get a win like that it's incredible. And it throws up like the bit of a top four a bit more. Maybe the Wars are pretenders and whatnot. We then had Panthers vs Tigers. I was looking for an upset here, but no, it was just a bloodbath for the Tigers. Just the only points scored was by a penalty conversion by Adam Dewey. What was it, 40-2 or something like that? 36-2, sorry. That's just just a bloodbath for the poor old Tigers. Let's move on from that. South vs Sharks. I had the Sharks tipped here. Boom. Got one right. Well, second one right for the week. I can't believe it, though. It was 10-12? Is that what the score was? 14-12, sorry. The Sharks, a top 8 team that have been looking incredible the last few weeks, played a South Sydney side that is riddled with injury and has been suffering all season. And now they're basically playing with their reserve side with so many injuries at the moment. And they nearly got the win over the Cronulla Sharks. They didn't, and now they're in 17th. But I just think it is an incredible effort from the South, and they will take a confidence boost from that, saying, "Oh, the Sharks that are in 7th or whatever they were, we were only 2 points off them with a team that is riddled with injury. Like, look out next season, another season under Wayne Bennett. Hopefully, like, all the injuries sort out. You come back with players that aren't going to be injured, and I think that'll be a huge win. And next season, the South will be what they should have been this season, a massive threat. And they're still posing a massive threat to some of those mid teams from like 5th all the way down to like where they are. They're posing a threat for that. Not quite the top 4 teams, but yeah. Now, let's move on to the next game. Raiders versus Knights. Yes, my boys in green. I tipped them. Like always, 9 in a row now. It was an exciting game, I guess, and I wasn't worried, though. We went into halftime, well, we thought we were going to be ahead 18-12, and then halftime siren goes, and then we did a silly play trying to keep the ball alive, and there was an intercept from the Knights, and they scored, and we went into halftime 18-all, and I'm going, what the hell is that? But that's all right. I don't mind going into halftime tied up or even down, as we saw last week and multiple times from the Raiders this season. They then just put on a clinic, second half clinic, 44-18. So what's that? That's 26 points unanswered by the Knights, and to finish off with a 44-18 score. Couple multis went off there, so can't complain about the boys. Matty Tomoko had a field day out with that, scoring 2 tries. There was a bit sloppiness, but it was a good day for Raiders fans, and I'm not going to complain about it whatsoever. About like when we polish up our first half a bit, I feel like if we go into halftime all tied up, or even down by 2 to 4 points, we're going to come out on top. That's just how I'm feeling at the moment. Maybe in the future, like with the other top 4 teams, it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle, and we do need to tighten up our game there. But yeah, I'm enjoying watching the Raiders play in the second half. Now, let's finish off the week with the Dogs versus Manly. I was so begging Manly to have a fantastic game out here. I was thinking, Manly's so on here. They beat the Storm down in Melbourne. They are going to rip up the Doggies. It's going to be an exciting game. Going to be a bit of an upset for the Doggy fans, but no. It was just a bloodbath for Manly. 44-4, something ridiculous like that. The Dogs put on a clinic. It was just like a training session for them, like captain's run almost. Like Manly, I guess, is nowhere now. They are so inconsistent. If they got that win, everyone would be going, oh my gosh, Manly are actually on. They're going to be in the top 8, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be a threat. Nah, too inconsistent. Not good enough. They're going to lose to the Raiders in a couple of weeks. But yeah. So that's 3 out of 8 tips this week. Not the greatest for me, but that's all right. That's all right. Now, that's the end of the pod today. Like, I don't have a lot on. Got a few things in the works. Maybe potentially another co-host. I want to get some guests on and do some more interviews like I did with the Byron Diekman one a couple months ago. You guys seem to really like that one. I really enjoyed interviewing, and that's where I want to go down the track in sports journalism, probably doing interviews with athletes. So I'm very happy. I'm looking pretty excited about what What's Not Sport will be looking like in the upcoming future. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I'm going to be a bit more present on the socials this week. We'll try and do some updates as the swimming goes on, what's happening with that. I'll put out another post today about the next episode and what your thoughts are on your sporting realm at the moment and your team and all those things. Again, that was a really good segment. I enjoyed interacting with you guys, so let's keep it up again. I hope you guys enjoy the new setup I've got going on. I think it's pretty cool. And yeah, if that's and apologies again. So sorry this episode's dropping a day late. I know it then makes the next episode seem really close, but it is what it is. But if that's What's Not Sport, thanks for tuning to episode, what are we on? Episode 29. Thanks for a quick 25 minutes of your time this week. I will see you in the next pod. Cheers, guys.